Okay, in a mid-sized company, the distribution of the number of phone calls answered each day by each of the 12 receptionists is approximately normal and has a mean of 44 and a standard deviation of 11. Using the empirical rule as presented in the book, what is the approximate percentage of daily phone calls numbering between 33 and 55? So we're going to give you a little bit more information than just this one answer. We're going to think about what the 68, 99, 95, 99.7 rule says. So, right, so here's the empirical rule, 68, 95, 99.7. So 68% of the data is within one standard deviation of the mean. So that means this center area plus or minus 1 sigma away from mu is going to be 68% of all observations in that interval. And so 95% are within 2 standard deviations. So I'm going to go out 1 more standard deviation in each direction. And this interval is therefore 95%. Notice though that includes the 68% that's in the center. So if I take 95 and subtract out the 68, what do I get? Is that 27%? So that means there's 27% of the data left over to be split into these two tails, well, to these two portions of the tails. So that they have to be split evenly because it's perfectly symmetrical. So therefore 27 divided by 2, so that's 13.5%. And 13.5% there. So then the 99.7 portion, so that goes out 1 more standard deviation in each direction. So now I'm at 99.7% of all the observations fall within 3 standard deviations. So up and down 3 sigma. So now if I say this center portion is now 95% of the data, if I take 99.7 and subtract out 95%, then that leaves me 4.7%. So there's 4.7% of the observations left to be stuck into these 2 components. And so I'm going to cut that in half, and that gives me 2.35%. So there's 2.35% in that little wing and 2.35% there. Okay, now notice that doesn't include everybody, right? It's 99.7% of all the observations, which leaves 0.3% left over to be split into the extremes. So way out here in either tail. So that's only going to be 0.3%, but it's cut into 2 components. So that's 0.15%, and this is 0.15%. So now we can think about what the question says. Well, it says the mean is 44, and then what percent of the observations fall between 33 and 55? So 33 is 1 standard deviation down, right? Because 1 standard deviation is 11. So if I go 44 minus 11, that gets me to 33, so that's a z-score of -1. And if I add 11, that gets me up to 55, so that's a z-score of +1. So therefore, I'm only looking at this interval, and so therefore the answer is 68%.